Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have two of my favorite people on the planet with me today. The legendary Karen Miltenberger, who's been on the podcast numerous times before, and making his podcast debut for the first time ever, Connor Miltenberger. Connor, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I feel welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Karen, welcome back. How you feeling about being back on the podcast?
I feel good. Although the last time I was on the podcast, I believe we were talking about sex. So that's not going to happen today.
Well, yeah, let's hope not. I don't want any part of that.
So let me give a little bit of context to the podcast family about why we're here today. And here's one of the things that I've realized is that as a parent and as a leader, seasons change, and it's important to mark those seasons with remembrance and thoughts about going forward. And so Connor is getting ready to take a new step into a new season, and I thought it would be great for Karen and I and Connor to kind of reflect and have some honest dialogue, no hurt feelings. We're just going to share from our hearts, and maybe you'll find something in here that helps you as a leader do the same. So Connor, let me start with you. When you think about the calling that God has placed on your life, you're 18, you're getting ready to take a big next step, and you can tell everybody what that is. What do you think that calling is?
So I think for one, it's hard to say because I am an 18-year-old who's figuring out life and just navigating as it's all going. So it's hard for me to say for sure, but obviously or maybe not as obviously, but in this next week, I'm headed off to the Naval Academy. And I guess the calling that I think God is leading me towards is just using this opportunity to reach as many people as I can in the military side of the world. Maybe not so much as the people that I've maybe affected before now, but who I will affect. Influence.
That's excellent. Really well said. Karen, what about you? How would you describe the calling that God has placed on your life?
It's so funny because I've been doing the job that I do for so long that it's become like a part of who I am. But I think my ultimate calling, and I always tell people this, as a mom, is to raise jerks, and to raise nice people and to raise nice humans. The language may be a little more colorful at times, but typically, I think that's my calling is especially with my children, is to put good humans into the world to keep doing the work.
Yeah, that's I love that, and obviously I love working with you on that. So that's a big part of who you and I are as a couple. And
for sure.
Connor, you're taking a huge step to go to the Naval Academy. Obviously, the last couple of months as that became public, people have been pouring over you with pride and gratitude for your commitment to service. I was kind of curious. Could you kind of share with everyone the journey that got you here, starting with, how you made the decision to say yes, to try for that, and then the road? Because I think the road is there's a lot of lessons that we can pull from on the journey to where we are today.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it started beginning of my junior year, maybe even summer of my sophomore year. So, and it was one of those things where I was the military's always been around my family. We have countless people in our family who've served, and that I've known to serve because obviously you were in the Army for a little bit. And I think through that, I was okay, well, the military would be something that would interest me. So then we knew a connection to West Point, and going up there was sweet. West Point was beautiful, and I loved it. And then that's when I was for sure, I was all right, I want to do this military academy thing because, for one, I think it's a really good opportunity academics wise and then military wise. But also I think it's important because it's just the honor it is to serve, and then also just the respect from coming from the academies is pretty neat. So we'll start, I mean, last year around this time, the application opened for it all. So it's a year-long application pretty much to even get in. And I remember just filling out countless questionnaires and folders just to be like, hey, like, this is what I do, this is what I like, why'd you want to join the Naval Academy or West Point? And I got into Annapolis's summer seminar, which is a summer camp, and learning to be a leader in that way. And once I was there, I knew it was the perfect fit for me. So then I was like, I'm 100% pursuing Naval as my number one and Army as my number two, even though you were Army. Yeah. um, yeah, but navigated that. A lot of persistence was needed to get through it all. I think I wanted to do it. I wanted to get it done more than anything. But also I had the days where I'd be like, well, it can wait. Like, it's not due until February. It's not due until March or whenever. So I was like, I have time. Well, like, the time slowly crept up on me because, oh, well, I had summer baseball. Scratch the whole summer out, right? Because baseball is just one of those commitments where we're going all the time, and then roll right into football season, and that took up a ton of time. So then we as a family had to just be like, hey, look, once a week we're going to talk about this and just work on it. And obviously I worked on it whenever I had the extreme motivation to, or even not extreme motivation to, because I knew I had to get it done because of how much it was there. And then now, I mean, we're here and we're got it all figured out, and it's awesome.
Karen, during the application process, you and I had a lot of conversations when Connor wasn't in the room about persistence. I'm curious, what did you learn about yourself in raising a young man who had goals and also no motivation to achieve those goals?
I learned that I can get rather frustrated. um, and I think one of the things that we decided together continually had to tell each other and things like that were like, this is not our goal. We can't want this more than him. And because we would get so wrapped up in the, oh, it needs to get done, it needs to get done, he needs to do this, he needs to do this, that finally you and me both, because I think we both did it, to where we had to remind each other, we can't want this more than him. Like, this is not one of those pieces where we have to say, this is where you're going, this is what you're doing, right? Like, this was what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and what was interesting for me about that is we would ask, I had a lot of questions and you had a lot of questions. And Connor, how would you articulate your feelings when we asked those questions?
I just didn't. Look, when you're asked maybe 5 times a day, up to 100 times a day,
that's
just
extreme exaggeration.
Questions on why, like this, that, and the other. Like, oh, how's it going? It's like, well, you guys gave me an hour. Like, I haven't done anything, right? Like, I just got home from a 3-hour football practice, and I'm tired, and I want to relax a little bit. But I mean, you guys were persistent in the fact of like it was always in my mind, which I don't think is like a bad thing as much, because obviously that showed me that like you guys were invested, and I think having invested parents and just siblings as well is just a huge factor in getting stuff like this done where it is long and tedious. So I thought that was like huge help.
And the idea of going to once a week meetings, that came from one of my coaches that I was working with, right? Is that eventually, because I was getting frustrated at your frustration.
I mean, look, when I'm asked that much, I'm like, all right, guys, look, you got to give me some space to breathe and be my own man here. Like, so
and to be fair, also, we would ask questions that were just asking questions, and he would be like, stop pressuring me, when all we were doing is
it's all like questions. Subconscious subconscious pressure, like putting that pressure in ways that like you don't even realize. Like even bringing up like tiny points like that, it's like, oh man, like it makes you think about it one way or another. It's like I don't want to think about it right now. I need that little break.
What I appreciated about the weekly meetings is that it gave us a framework to all agree on. I think that was helpful. And then in addition
Well,
to
we
that,
also went, go ahead.
I was going to say, we also created that shared document.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, on our phones that, was more for, I think, me and you, not necessarily Connor, but that he could see, like, hey, we need you to see these things too.
Yeah.
And we have our own stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what I think is good though is like I got it way early before the deadline. Not before it's like, oh, like didn't submit it right before the deadline, day before. Like it was probably a solid month and a half because I remember looking back on it and hearing when I did. And then let alone the whole congressman applications too. Like that one I got in pretty soon. So actually, I think that one might. Yeah.
It was the immunization paperwork that was a little delayed.
There was we had some huge wins early on getting all the stuff in, and then there was the day of the physical, and that day was a really hard day for the whole family. When you got back from your eye exam, Connor, I'm wondering if you can kind of share a little bit about that story, and then the emotions kind of around that, and what we learned that day. And I think there's some really good leadership gems in there to mine out.
Yeah. Well, for those of you that may or may not know, I have red-green color deficiency, which we knew I had a little bit as a kid, I was like, we knew about it. And going in, I was like, I'm going to obviously like try my best on this because I'm not going to fold under the pressure and just take it, even though I knew it was a high chance that getting this test was probably going to hurt me. So like going there, I was a little nervous going in. I mean, I have perfect 20/20 vision. Like I see straight, like I can see red and green fine. It's just only on the color blindness test I can't see it. So we went in and I was like, all right, like I got this, right? And then he's flipping through the pages and I was pointing out all the numbers fine. And then we start getting the pages and I'm like, I don't see anything. And he said there might be some of those pages. Well, he flipped another one and I was like, I don't see anything again. And then he flipped the third one and I was like, I think I might have guessed a number or I said there was nothing. But he was like, he closed the book after that page and he goes, well, you have red-green color blindness. And I was like, because I kind of knew like, man, like this is going to hurt my chances. So I held it all in until we got into the car. And once I got into the car, it did just all left me because I was like, this isn't going to happen. It's never going to work. And I folded right there and was like, I'm screwed. And that sucked. Yeah. Long drive home. And I didn't go to school the rest of the day because I was just got to me. Right. But luckily, through a long process of waivers and just waiting, that was eventually our questions. Just, hey, like, have you heard anything about the waiver? And I remember emailing him because I was like, guys, like, when's the timeline I could expect this? And they were like a few weeks or so. And it was like during spring break, I was like, it's going to happen during then, which it didn't, which that was unfortunate. But I was just like, being on the beach would be amazing to hear if I got the news or not. Cause then if I didn't, at least I'd be on the beach. Well, then like a week or two later, we found out and I got the email. And actually, I got the email of getting accepted into the academy first, which I wasn't expecting. So I got that, basically a letter of assurance saying, hey, as long as you can get the waiver, like you're going to be able to go into the school. And I remember that day, I was head over heels and I was so excited, like tears of happiness, because I was like, well, this is a huge step and it gave me so much hope. And then find out later I got the waiver and it all worked out.
Now, Karen, you happen to be the one to take him to the eye exam that day. Most of this he had done by himself, but for some of these exams, we wanted to go with him to make sure that we had the information, and they asked
Well,
us to, right?
I mean, he wasn't 18 yet. So
Yeah.
technically, he needed an adult there. So that was part of the reason we went. Most of those places, just because he wasn't 18, we had to
Yeah.
be there for. So,
What were your feelings watching your son's dreams? As I remember being on the phone with you, and he's looking up what are the chances of getting in if I have color deficiency on his phone in the seat next to you, and you're like trying to get me off the phone because we didn't want to talk about it because there was so
well,
much emotion.
you were trying to ask all the questions, and I could see it in Connor's face. Like, this is really overwhelming. You're asking questions. I don't think I'm getting in. My dreams are crushed and shattered. And you just kept wanting to ask questions. And I'm like, okay, we're not talking about this now with him right next to me and that was hard as a parent, like knowing there was nothing I could do, like this was just something that he was born with, right? Like that's genetic in nature. And like, it was something completely out of our control that it just sucked, and we let him stay home from school that day, and you know, and then just different things, like football ended, and then we had the banquet, and like kids calling him like Sergeant or some sort of name, Miltenberger, and it was like, just this dream that we thought for him and what he had shared with others and where he wanted to go, and like it just felt like, how do you tell people like this may not be a thing? Like it was just a big gut punch in the moment.
Yeah.
Let me ask you both this question because I think there's some value here. We had done everything that we could possibly do. Connor, you controlled all of the controllables. Karen and I, we did everything that we could do. And at some point in time, we have to surrender the outcome. Tell me about, Karen, we'll start with you. Tell me about your relationship with God in the midst of all of that. What kind of conversations are you having with God in that moment?
It was one of those things where I felt like my prayer was just like, God, you have helped us raise this amazing kid who's smart and a leader, and like he knows what he wants to do. He's got this good head on his shoulders, like remove this obstacle, right? Like allow this piece to not be the problem. Because like you said, like all the controllables were controlled, and he had done on his own and had the grades and the personality and all the things that they're looking for. And it was just this one piece that felt just needed that extra prayer over, So,
Son, what about you? What was your relationship with God like in the midst of all that?
I mean, it was one where it was like, when we told people that like we were waiting on the waiver and all that, it was a lot of just praying more for like just God, like let this be like what's best. And at this point, and after that first initial hit, I was fine because I was like, at this point, I've done everything I can do. So my prayer was just like, God, just let this be what you think is the best option for me and what you think I have the most opportunity with to do that. And I mean, my relationship with God during that time was probably obviously not the strongest, but it wasn't not there either.
But one of the things that's interesting about our personalities, the three of us, is your mom and I, Connor, are both very people oriented. Now, I have a lot of people. Karen's group is a little smaller, but Karen and I are both talkers. We like to verbally process things. You are not a verbal processor to date. Maybe that'll change.
Yeah,
Maybe it won't.
no, yeah, not right now. I would say that's not how I process one bit.
How did you deal with the tension of the fact that you're like, this wasn't our news exactly, but it kind of was our news? How did you deal with the tension of basically as parents, and if we were to apply this to the business world, as supervisors, having two parents / supervisors that are really verbally oriented when you as the subordinate and as the primary subject are not? Like, what was that like for you?
It was very just like I had to make sure you guys weren't oversharing because it was like I didn't want to I didn't want to deal with all the people and everyone being like, oh, like this, that, like so sorry. And also I didn't want people to think that like that was it, because I was like, there's still a chance, right? I mean, so obviously I had to make sure like you guys, we made sure we were comfortable before sharing to the whole family and all that I got it all figured out and whatever may have happened. But like for me during that time, there was a lot of processing with my friends and girlfriend and all that, which helped me a ton.
How important were those external relationships to you, Connor, when it came to navigating all of these feelings? Like, how do you know who the right person to talk to is about this kind of stuff?
I mean, just going to people I'm close with. I think navigating all that with them has been huge. And I mean, some of my closest friends, just deep conversations while we're working out or whatever. And then obviously with my girlfriend, I probably load dumped on her a ton just about how I'm feeling and all that. So, yeah.
Karen, same question to you. You and I were cut in the tension of, we obviously have someone in our life who doesn't really want us to share. We are both people who like to share. Sometimes I've been known to be an oversharer. I think that's might be true for both of us, but for me, for sure. How did you deal with that tension in your life?
I think I picked my spots, and found my people who I, could trust with that information and share and that understood, because a lot of people don't understand like what it all means and what does waiver mean and what does this look like and what do you mean he got in but he didn't, like, but he's not in, and like there were so many questions. So we kept everything off of social media, and didn't share any of it. Our different Bible studies or people we knew who were prayers, shared with them and things like that, just because we needed and wanted the extra prayers in the situation, in the waiting. But I think it was like just picking our spots, and asking Connor too, like, is it okay if we share this information with A, B, and C? So.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think the constant conversation about what can we share, when do we share it, what's it look like, who do we share it with? Obviously, you and I have big families, and a lot of people are really invested. We're really invested in Connor's success, and Connor's the oldest grandchild, and I think that kind of played a little extra tension.
Well, in my side of the family,
on your side,
in
right?
my side, yeah.
And
so by 4 years, like
right.
The next one is our next one. So
yeah,
it like probably felt like an additional amount of pressure for you and I. And so, one of the things that I am always curious about, Connor, is how did you make the decision to surrender it to God and like I controlled the controllables, and like what was your thought process on coming to that conclusion?
I think it was just like taking a step back and realize like for all the time I've put in and all this and that, like at this point, even if the reason I didn't make it was because of the color blindness, like it would have sucked. But I just realized that I had to step back, because if I was too into it, like, oh, I saw the chance, or oh, like there's something I can do, it was gonna eat me up more. And that would have ate me up alive, because I was constantly just like, I'm just gonna let it happen. And if I had to tell people every time I got asked about how I was gonna navigate it, it would have just been a more and more like punch in the gut.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think my prayer was always, God, your will be done. Right. And when we got to that place, it was kind of like, open the doors that only you can open, and shut the doors so that we can't open them. And thankfully he did open them. And now here we are, right? As we record this, we're 1 week away from I-Day.
Minus a week.
Yeah. It's crazy. As you're listening to this, it's, we're already on our way to Annapolis to drop you off. Tell me about some of the feelings. We'll start with Karen. We'll let Karen go first. Tell me about some of the feelings that you're having as we drop him off for his next season of life.
Yeah. All the feels. Um, I think the number one thing that I feel the most is pride. I'm just so excited for him, and sad for me. um,
That's okay. We can, that's a good answer. We're going to let you have your feelings and process that, unless there's anything else you want to say. We can go to Connor.
no, it's just a lot, there's just a lot of emotion with with saying goodbye and not seeing somebody every day that you've seen every day. This week has been really good because he's been gone. um, but I've also been able to text and like call and FaceTime. Like these first 2 weeks are going to be real hard because, and there's two 30-minute phone calls scheduled through the entire summer. Like I I'm hoping they're a FaceTime call versus like a phone call. Like I don't know what the parameters are. It's his cell phone. I'm sure he can do whatever he wants, but
Yeah, we'll
um,
see.
his voice for proof of life will be good. But like it's just a next season that we've never done before.
Yeah. That's good, Connor. You got a little emotional over there too. You want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that and about your next season? How you feeling about it?
I mean, I'm anxious, right? Like holding as strong as I can. Um, I think the big thing is like it's just hard because it's a different change,
Yeah.
and I've been holding it all in basically to be strong and all that, and it's just reflecting on it all in a way of like it's bringing it all out, right? Which I I felt it earlier when we were talking about it, and I was like trying to hold it in, but it's just like looking from where we've come is just wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think for me, it's just this like holy moment of gratitude and pride. And, obviously, son, we're so proud of you and so thankful that God let us be your parents. So a lot of emotion on the call today, of course, when you're talking about life moments like this. There's been a lot of emotion in our house the last month, and it's good. It's a blessing, right? Like that's why we do these things. And if you're a leader that's listening to this and you don't figure out ways to get your emotions out, what we know for sure is that eventually your emotions will eat you up.
Yeah.
And so so it's good for all of us to let that out and to work through it. All right, let's shift just a little bit. You're now 18 years old. I would love to hear your thoughts on if you could go back in time, right? And this is to kind of armchair quarterback our parenting, right? This is, no matter what you say here, you're not going to get in trouble, right? So armchair quarterback our parenting. What's one thing that you wish we would have done differently? And then I'm going to ask you the flip side of the question as well, which is what are one or two things that you thought we did really well? So we'll start first with you, Connor, and then we'll go Karen and me. One thing that we wish we could have done differently raising this young man.
I don't think there's much, right? Like maybe like a little thing here, a little thing there. I mean, that's hard for me to answer because I feel like you guys have done a pretty good job. Maybe like, like even then, it's like I look back at it and I've seen other people's parenting styles, and I'm just like, you guys were the right amount of you were there, the right amount of have your space, which I've loved because it's like, hey, like these are your rules. As long as you follow them, like, and you abide by them, like it'll be all good. So I think that balance of it all has been great, and I think that's probably like something I've loved about it. It's just kind of like we've set our rules as like you guys set your standards and rules as parents to me, and I think being able to follow those has been just makes it easy because it's like, oh well, your curfew's this time. Okay, well, if I need to change it, I'll talk with you guys and we'll figure it out. It won't be a hard no or a hard yes or whatever. So I think it's the right amount of freedom while also realizing like, hey, look, like you're still under our roof. Like we're in charge of you. So, yeah.
Karen, one thing that you think that we could have done better. Let's armchair quarterback this thing.
I mean, I really think we did a great job. I just, one thing I'd change, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, like, we did a great job of vacations. Probably one thing that maybe personally would have been probably more like one-on-one time. Even though I got my time, like literally had time with just Connor over the years and weekends, like where it was like,
Vacations and
well, not even but like when Dad was gone, like
yeah,
military stuff and trainings and weekends, like it was you and me, bud. Like up until Caleb was born, like it was so one of those things, like and for a good couple months, like I thought it was just going to be Connor, right? Like we didn't know we were going to have Caleb,
Couple of years.
and no. No, it was only a few months before them telling me, no, you're not going to have any more children, and then Caleb being created. So, like,
Yeah, I just didn't think we were going to have more kids. I thought we were going to be one and done, tapping
no,
out of the
no, you
game.
did not. You're
I
not.
couldn't
That's a
imagine being
total
an
lie.
only child.
It's a total lie. But I think just the one-on-one, especially as he got older,
Right. Yeah.
like you talk about like dating the kids, and I don't know that that's something I ever thought about or would do, just because it was like it felt like I was always with them and would be the one to take them to something or do something, over you.
Yeah, I had to be more intentional because I was gone a lot.
Yeah.
And that I would say like I wish I probably wish I would have been a little bit more intentional in discipling Connor to follow Jesus, right? Like I think he loves Jesus, but like giving him some of those more of those tools. You know, it wasn't until just even this week where we hadn't really talked about a tithe in a long time or some of that other stuff and like stuff that has just changed our lives. And I don't know that we had shared some of those spiritual disciplines with him. And honestly, I wish we would have waited till later to give him his cell phone.
No.
You know,
I think
Actually, I
today's
thought
day
about
and
that.
age,
I
it's
thought about
like,
that, and actually, Connor was not bad at all with his cell phone. The other two are the problem. That's gonna be
that's a
my
different
change for
podcast.
those
Different
kids.
podcast.
like I was gonna say, I was like, I think it's the freedoms with it all, and I thought I navigated it good. I thought I was better than Caleb and Shiloh than
You're
they
the
are right
only one
now.
that gets their cell phone in their bedroom out of all of our kids. And you've always had it in your bedroom. I don't know how we
No,
messed
he
that up.
hasn't.
I
I don't think
had
he
it
did.
in for a bit, but then what happened was I would be like, well, how about on the weekends? And then I got it on the weekends in my bedroom. And then eventually I started just leaving it in there. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and now we've gone to alarm clocks in bedrooms, so Caleb and Shiloh have no reason to bring them into their bedrooms.
I think that's what my excuse was. It was like, well, I can use it as an alarm.
Which probably was because we didn't.
Yeah, which I probably
So,
did use it as an alarm because I'd be
The
waking up at
technology is such
6
a
to work
challenge.
out.
Yeah.
yeah.
Such a challenge.
So,
Okay. One thing that you loved about the way that we parented. Karen, you go first.
I just love that we are involved. Like, I just love knowing what's happening in my kids' lives and like being a part of it and being excited for them and sharing in that and like vacations and having fun. Like, I think that we just tend to have fun together and, we enjoy spending time together, which I really appreciate.
Milt.
I would say mine kind of falls under that like same category. I was like, I feel like our life balance of everything is just like perfect. Like we don't have too much. Oh man, like all the families at the house 24/7, and we're all just bickering with each other nonstop. But it's just the right amount of hey, like we're going on vacation, and we're going to take this step back for how long, and we're also going to do this and the other. I just thought that was awesome about how you guys parented because it allowed just like a nice, good flowing time. Like it'd be like, hey, we're going to do our vacations around this time, and the past 2 years have been great with just the timing of it all. So
Yeah, I would say I like our intentionality around different acknowledging the season that we're in. And we never wished away a season, right? Whatever season we were in it, whether that was football, baseball, basketball, vacation, whatever. I thought we were intentional with our seasons, which I was thankful that everyone kind of came around that. That's an idea I stole from somebody else, but I was thankful for that. So, okay, I got one more question for each of you before we wrap this puppy up and put it to bed. But before we do, there is a chance that people will want to support you and connect with you all over the internet. Do you have a place that you want to send people? Do you want to give out your email if they want to send you encouraging notes, Connor or Karen, honestly? Where do you guys, if the podcast family wants to connect, where can they connect with you?
Follow me on Instagram, cw.milt11. It'll be in the show notes. Look, I know this.
Yeah, because nobody knows this, but you've been my social media manager for the last year.
Yeah, I've met maybe less than a year, but just like putting in
Dad
some of the
rounds up.
post and yeah, sorry. I would say follow me there. I am private now because of some social media agreements that I had to sign with the Naval Academy, but as long as it's all good, I follow, shoot me the DM, keep in touch. I'm hopefully going to have a LinkedIn profile that I have all figured out eventually. Like I have one, I just don't use it. but I hopefully will start
Same.
using it here soon. So using it there. So I'll put that in my Instagram eventually. So just if you connect me on Instagram, there'll be ways to figure that all out.
Karen.
I am also on Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Uh, Karen Milt on Instagram. So, yeah,
Love it.
that's where I'm at.
Okay. Last question I love to ask people. You guys know this question. You've listened to the podcast before. It's an advice question. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice about what was about to happen, I'm going to give you two different questions, two different seasons of your life. Connor's different than Karen's. Connor, if you could go back to the start of your freshman year, right? You're a young man, 14 years old, maybe 15. You're looking at your own eyes. Freshman year was a COVID year for you. If you could sit knee to knee with that younger version of yourself and give him one piece of advice about the journey he's about to go on, what are you going to tell him?
Do it. Just like be bold, take the step, right? Like, I think looking back, it's just kind of like in high school, just do it. You're given an opportunity to do something, just go do it. Enjoy it. Because like some of the stuff, especially that Centerville has given me the opportunity to do, has been awesome. And I mean, I don't know where else I would have gone to do that. So I would just tell myself, just like, do it if given the opportunity.
All right, Karen, this is yours. I want to take you back to the day after Connor was born. You could sit knee to knee with that younger version of yourself, holding that little baby boy. What's the one piece of advice you're going to tell him?
Well, in fairness, the day after he was born, I wasn't really able to hold him. I mean, I
It's okay.
did.
We don't need to go.
But
You know what I mean. We don't have to
I'm
get into
just
the.
saying.
Yeah, I know. You love the details.
I wish I could have done more on his first day he was born. Um, take it all in.
Yeah.
It goes by so fast. So fast. Like, I cannot believe we're here right now. Because it was just so fast.
Yeah. So that's
So
one
just,
thing.
just enjoy it. So,
Yeah. Even like for me too, it's just like looking back at high school, I remember like everyone was always like, it's quicker than you think, it's sooner than you think, and time has just flown by these past 4 years. So next 4 are hopefully just as speedy.
Amen to that. That'll be something
Yeah.
to celebrate. I think for me, I would tell that young dad to work less. That's what I would tell him. Work less. Work's not that important. Even the good godly work I was doing, it's just the moments are so fast, and you know, I think about that all the time with our next two, who are also amazing kids. They're just great kids. So
good.
we feel ridiculously blessed with all three of our kids. They're really, really awesome. So, Caleb, Connor, any closing comments?
Oh man, you blew that one. No,
At least he didn't call you Andrew.
I mean, no, not really. I mean, it's about to be a journey, to say the least. So,
Amen.
I'll be excited.
Should we say go Navy to end it? It feels kind of dirty.
oh yeah.
We can say go Navy. You just don't have to say the other part.
All right.
Connor, you going to end it for us?
Go Navy and beat Army.